Do not ever decide which golf ball to play based on how it performs with your driver. That's the exact opposite approach that you should be taking. And that's just one little nugget of information that you'll glean in a fascinating conversation straight ahead with Dean Snell, the man behind Snell Golf, and a fountain of knowledge of all things golf balls. Stick around. I don't know the total number of times that I've had the privilege of talking with Dean Snell over the years, but I'm pretty sure it's well into the double digits as we've told his story, his journey in the world of golf, and helping to develop some of the most iconic and well-known golf balls in the entire industry, from the Pro V1 to TaylorMade's lineup, and then heading out on his own in the world of Snell Golf, which is, by the way, the official golf ball of our program, Michigan Golf Live. And as we reconnect with Dean today, I want to take a bit of a gearheads tech dive into what makes the golf balls and the various models a little bit different, what makes them perform according to what you need them to do in your game. So, Dino, it's good to see you, my man. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me again. Nice to see you too.
Yeah, glad to do it. Always am glad to connect with you. I always find that I learn a lot of dangerous information when I get done talking to Dean Snell. I try to repeat it to my friends to sound smart, but I probably mess it up at some point.
That's all right.
Yeah, well,
Baffling.
but I still remember meeting you for the first time a million years ago, back when you were out in Carlsbad with one of the big box brands, and realizing this guy lives this stuff. And so as we look now into your world, when your name is on the box, I know you take that very seriously. In the world of Snell Golf, there are a couple of new iterations in your lineup, the PR3, which is over here, and the PR4, which is over here. And I just think it would be beneficial for our audience to learn the primary differences between them. Uh, and I have a theory, Dean. You can tell me up front if you think I'm onto something. I really think golfers pretend to know more than they often actually know when it comes to golf ball technology. They'll nod, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I know." If they really don't know, is that an unfair assessment on my part?
No, it's not unfair. It's pretty true. I was actually just down in Florida at the PGA Golf Club a week ago, and I did a presentation to the members. They have 900 members there, so they set up a pretty big thing. And part of the presentation that I usually try to do is I try to ask questions to all these core golfers, retired people that play golf 6 days a week, and get their answers to some common kind of questions. And I even offered dozens of golf balls or cases of golf balls for the correct answer. And very, very seldom does anybody throw their hand up or do they get it right. So I think you're right. There's a lot of things that people believe over the years that have been told that may or may not be 100% true. But there's some things that are, but there's a lot of things that the golf ball has been dug into so deep over the last maybe 6 to 10 years, where information is getting out there and it's being analyzed and looked at from all different ways, and then conclusions being drawn without really actual data to support that. So I think a lot of that information, social media has been a big win to try to promote things, but it also can be very challenging too, to try to defend things that may or may not be 100% true.
Yeah, that makes good sense. And as we dig into what you guys have been working on in the lab, so to speak, at Snell Golf, I'd like to start with the PR3. So when we talk about this three-piece urethane golf ball, what does that mean in practical terms to the golfer who's considering, the three or the four?
So to step back a little bit, the last, in honesty, the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even following on 6 years now, since COVID came, there's been some pretty significant challenges that have happened in the golf industry, not just for the small direct-to-consumer companies like Snell Golf, but to the big companies as well. There have been a lot of issues with material supply. There's been a lot of issues with production supply. There's been an analysis dug deep on performance. There's analysis deep on specs and how you make things and durability and pricing and tariffs and shipping and a
Hmm.
factory blew up overseas that makes 20 million dozen balls and they had a fire and unfortunately tragically killed 10 people, and it sent everybody scrambling. So starting up new factories, part of the issue with the United States that we have is that there aren't factories in the United States to make golf balls. The ones that
Hmm.
do make them for their companies, but you can't go and have somebody make something. So there are some overseas, but now you have to work with them and teach them and educate them and train them and go through a learning process. And we've done that. So for us, for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been some significant challenges, um, but not to give up and continue to try to push and get back to being able to say, hey, let's, golf is really going well right now. There's a lot of people playing. Memberships are up and they're still up, which surprises me. But I think in general, the performance of what people are looking for in golf balls is we need to know that and help design that and not try to have all the customers be worried about that kind of stuff. So it's changed. So what we've done is, as in the past, I've always taken a piece of paper on my desk, which we've had this conversation multiple times, and I put the pros and cons of every product that we launch, and then I read all the feedback, and we have tens of thousands of reviews and feedback that come in, and I try to read all of them, and then so I fill boxes in where a product is launched and maybe it's too hard or too soft or doesn't spin enough or spins too much or flies high or low or durability is an issue or compression's an issue or something and that people like or dislike. So I fill those in under the pros and cons. And then when a box fills up, to me, that's the voice of the customer. So
Hmm.
we take that voice and we work on developing our next product to address the issues that are more on the con side, keeping some of the pros, the positives into the product as well. So that's kind of how we've gone about this. And be honest with you, the last 4 years have really pushed us to understand where the consumer is, where the production is when you get things made overseas, and what we really needed to address. So we spent the last 2 years or so really investing, $3.5 to $4 million into a factory or multiple factories to teach them the process, create new tooling, create new quality measurements, create um, production and process control things that can be put in place and implemented with new tooling. And we've done that time period going through these pains of starting up these companies to a point today where we feel pretty comfortable with the new products that you're speaking about today, feedback based on past products and our interest in working with the factories to improve their process and production and then create the performance that people are looking for.
And there is so much more into putting a ball together and putting it on the shelf or shipping it to the customer than I think most of us realize. You're talking about investing in factories. I don't want to gloss over what you said a moment ago that the fire, not only did it take 10 lives, but it also disrupted the production of 20 million dozen golf balls. That's across all the brands. That's absolutely mind blowing. And so when you have that kind of disruption to just placing orders, supply chain, and then all of the various ingredients that go into a golf ball, between that and what happened during the pandemic, I would have to think that there were a few times where you and your team just sat and looked at each other in the conference room and went, "What next?" I mean, just one after another.
Well, as you know, I spent most of my life playing hockey, and there were many times where I wanted to pull that shirt over the head and fire a couple uppercuts and cause some damage to somebody. But most of the people I was with didn't deserve it. So it's a challenge, and I try to we try to keep the people that work for us, and fortunately for us, we've had nobody leave, and just continue that process to know what we're working towards and try to do something that can benefit the players. I did spend quite a few years in the golf industry designing golf balls for the best players in the world, at Titleist and at TaylorMade. And now this is an opportunity to try to give back to consumers. So we're not trying to cut corners on anything, and we're trying to make performance that matches what our customers need, and then make it affordable. The raw material costs have gone up significant over the last few years. The shipping cost, the tariff cost, there's been huge incremental costs that have gone up. And you're seeing the big manufacturers today, the golf balls are at $60 a dozen now, and or more in pro shops. So when we started, God, I guess in 11 years ago now,
Mhm.
32.99 was the price per dozen that we had. Last year, our Prime 4.0 was 34.99. And what I'm trying to do right now is all those increases that we've got, I've been working on ways to try to maintain where I don't get up into that 40, 50, $60 a dozen range, and continue to provide consumers performance that they're looking for, but keep it affordable and help grow the game. So we're trying to continue that with these new products and launch these golf balls at $34.99 this year instead of $60 a dozen, which other people are doing.
Yeah, and all that to say that I've been preaching to the choirs all around my world that the best value in golf is Snell golf ball. And the cool thing is you have the opportunity to save some money but not sacrifice anything in performance. I mean, I'm a PR4 player, and it's the best ball that I've played. And I've had some of my best rounds with it and best season last year. So let's explore why that is. Let's go to the
Okay.
3.0 or the PR3, and let me have you walk us into what the three piece even means. I've got a cut ball here, and we look and we see the outer shell, we see a very thin layer, and then we have the lime green interior on this particular cut ball. What does it all mean? How does the three piece come into play and help a golfer?
So in golf ball design, when you can add a layer to the golf ball, you can add some level of change in performance. Technically, you have 14 clubs. If you wanted to put 14 layers in the ball, it really wouldn't work out too well, wouldn't be cost effective. But the green layer in the middle, that is the core of the golf ball, also what we refer to as the engine. So that really drives most of the performance. In the past, those cores have always been firmer, higher compression to keep the speed up, but it would also keep the spin rate very high with the driver. So we've worked to try to create core technology that allows us to design those cores to be lower compression, but not lose any speed. So you don't sacrifice ball speed, but that lower compression gives it a little softer feel. It keeps that driver spin rate down, lets you hit it higher, and effectively makes for longer distances with drivers and three woods. The inside layer that you see inside of the ball, that's referred to as the mantle layer. That layer is actually what controls performance of the ball. So when you hit with a driver, you compress the ball about 1/3 the diameter, so well into the core. So effectively, what you have is a thicker mantle layer with a core. That's basically a two-piece golf ball. That gives you your low driver spin, higher launch, more distance. And now that mantle works with the thin cover on the iron shots, which gives you that short game control and spin. So you end up having low spin rate with the driver due to the core and mantle, and you have green side spin increase to help control with the mantle and the cover.
How do I know if I'm a PR3 or a PR4 kind of player? And I say that kind of knowing your answer, but I want everybody else to hear it because you taught me years ago that it's not always the most expensive ball that's the best one for your game. So take us into how I would know I'm a PR3 golfer.
So if it's just standing there and trying to make a decision to say which one, a couple of years ago we launched Prime 3.0 and Prime 4.0, which were based on. And everybody always talks about swing speed, and when I do the presentations, nobody knows what their swing speed is. So
Right.
what I've tried to do is simplify it to say, let's base it on a 7 or 8 iron shot that you hit. Everybody kind of has that understanding that I hit my 8 iron 130, 140, 150 yards. So you kind of have a feel with the shorter the club is, the more accurate the players are. So understanding what you as a golfer hit a 7 iron or an 8 iron is more accurate than understanding what your swing speed with a driver is. So the PR3 golf ball is made for the mid. It's made for the majority of players. In all honesty, it's the three-piece layer is going to help add a spin when you get around the green, but the core mantle cover kind of fit the majority of average golfers. Excuse me. Golfers that hit 7 irons, 130 or 40 yards to 155 or so. Typically, if you're a faster ball speed player, when you get deeper into that construction, when you hit further into the golf ball, the core is not as fast as the mantle. So what we do is we add another layer inside of that, which is on the PR4. That's a four-piece golf ball. So that internal mantle layer is in there to maintain the speed for the faster swing speed players. Guys that hit 7 irons, 155, 60, 170, 180 yards. Those players will benefit from that internal layer to maintain their speed. If you don't hit it that hard, you're really not going to benefit from it, and the PR3 is going to be more of a ball for you. So I kind of explain to people, number one, if you have time, take them both out and go from 150 yards and in and play the golf balls head to head. One's going to be a little softer, one's going to be a little firmer, one's going to have a little more spin, a little less spin. Different constructions have different performance, and find which one you prefer. If you don't have that time and you're looking for it, then I would recommend, based on your 7 iron shot, if you're 150 yards or less, it would be PR3, and if you're 150 yards and more, it would be PR4.
I don't know if there's any other sport that lends itself to delusions of grandeur more than golf, where it seems like for the majority of golfers, overestimating their distances is probably more common than underestimating.
Correct.
And yet, when you go into a fitting kind of a mindset where you take out the PR3, take out the PR4, if 1 out of 10 7 irons is going 160, but 9 out of 10 of them are going 143, then I think as golfers, we have to be willing to embrace reality, what the data is showing us. And along the way, as you were pointing out, Dean, it may be that all 4 of the layers in the PR4 aren't going to bring you the benefit that you thought that they might. And so maybe you save a few dollars and you go into the PR3. Are you seeing golfers grasping the concept of accurate data interpretation?
I have, to a point. I think that's I don't think it's there where it could be or where it should be. But there are quite a few people that have sent reviews back to us or tests back to us. What we do offer is we offer what we call as a tour test pack, which we have 2 sleeves of each ball, and it's the same price. So you're not paying any more for it. And we put it together with 2 sleeves of each, which allows you, the consumer, to go out and have 6 golf balls to really test to see if you notice a difference or if you like it. The PR3 is going to be a little bit softer feel, a little bit lower compression. The PR4 is going to be a little bit firmer feel, a little bit higher compression. So there are some players that really pick their golf ball based on feel. There's others that base it on spin. There's others that base it on the short game. So the closer you get to the green, both of these golf balls have that thin urethane cover with the mantle that create the spin. So there won't be a huge difference. They differentiate as you separate out away from the green, where PR4 is a little bit firmer and the PR3 is going to be a little bit softer. And the speed of the golf ball for faster ball speeds, longer hitters, PR4 would be our recommendation.
To the naked eye, from the outside shell, you're not going to see any difference. These balls look exactly alike. And how many of us are actually going to cut them in half to see what the inside looks like? But everything that Dean's talking about by way of testing and performance is that's what has to make the difference for you. It needs to be the primary top of your leaderboard in influencing data, so that you know whether you're a 3 or a 4 player. If you are going to step back to a 130-yard shot and you have the ability to do so, get the test pack that Dean's describing. And I know your local pro might have to carve out a hole for you, so that you don't hold up play. Don't do it on a Saturday morning at 8. Just try to find a time when there's a little space out there. and hit 4 shots with each one. Hit 5 shots as best you can as you go through. This is how you really do your own field testing, short of having access to a launch monitor and a professional to guide you. One of the, I think, the beauties of Snell Golf is that these things are going to end up on their front porch. They don't have to go to a big box store, look on the shelf, fight through all of the 400 models of golf balls that are there. You're delivering usually with a note from Dean to the front porch, and it's all part of the value package of Snell. So let's kind of wind down our time together just to talk about, once we find out which ball it is, what the benefit is of doing business with Dean Snell and the team at Snell Golf.
One of the things that I kind of put into my customer service group is, one customer at a time kind of deal. And if we get questions that come in or there's emails sent in, I try to get those answered the day of, to get people feedback. If you go online at snellgolf.com and you order golf balls, we ship them out the next morning, and typically they'll take 2, 3 days to get to your home. If you something that you don't like about them or whatever, they can actually be sent back. From a money back side to it for unused golf ball side, which has been very, very small. The percentage of people that buy them, play them, and the challenge is that you don't have to play the golf ball that Scotty Scheffler wins the Masters with. You don't. It's you got to remember that the golf balls that the tour players are playing are designed for the tour players, which are very high speed, very high spin golfers. They're made for those players that ask us to do certain things in the design to make it for them. In fact, if you look at the Darrell survey for golf and you look at the last PGA Tour event, there'll be 5, 6, 7, 8 different variations of Pro V1s and Pro V1Xs on the Darrell survey. So the players are not changing every single year to a new ball. The name's kept the same, so it makes it very efficient to say you won with Pro V1. But the change are subtle changes that are made in golf balls today because we've pushed the limit on distance, we've pushed the limit on speed, and now we focus on the performance on the short game. So that's kind of where they're different. So anybody that tries to tell you a golf ball's 30 yards longer, it's probably not true. All the golf balls today are made to the maximum speed. We submit to the USGA. We get on sometimes the warning list saying, be careful, they're too fast or too long. So the launch conditions that you as a player have are your specific launch conditions. Anytime you see a distance test out there that says this ball is 4 yards longer than this ball, that is at that specific launch condition. It might not be yours, but it's that specific. So if you hit the ball the same 12 degrees, 2300 at 160 miles an hour, this would be 4 yards longer. Okay. But the standard deviations are huge. So drivers are very tough for people to hit the same every time. My recommendation is do not ever pick golf balls based on drivers. Pick it based on 150 yards and in or 100 yards and in. Find out which one you like because that's where they're different. And then off the tee, you have so much adjustability with your drivers today that you can tweak your height and your spin if you want, but understand that they've been designed to be kind of maximum. And if your spin rate changes up or down based on 2 different shots, you're going to get 2 different distances. That's just the nature of the game.
As you can tell, when you hear Dean talk golf balls, the man is a fountain of knowledge. And if your club does events for members, like educational events, fly Dean in. It's pretty cool to hear him go. I've had the chance to hear him speak a couple of times, and it is just mind-blowing the amount of information and knowledge that he's amassed and helped teach over the years. So we have the PR3, the PR4 from Snell Golf delivered to your doorstep. It's the best value in golf. I think it's the best ball in golf. Of course, we've shown you a couple of examples of them in white. They've also got some if you'd like a brighter ball to keep track of. You can look for that on their website. And at the very least, might I recommend you try out the demo test kit where you get a couple sleeves of each. And you can decide for yourself then. You don't need anybody else to tell you. And do not, you just heard Dean say it, do not decide on which golf ball based on how it moves off of your driver. get into the scoring zone, and then see which one performs best for you. Dean, thanks for yet another really good seminar for me to learn again, and hopefully we'll pick up a few students along the way. And appreciate working with you guys again as our ball for Michigan Golf Live, and we continue spreading the word around our world, and hopefully your world continues to grow.
All righty. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.